The sun bled over the horizon of Alexandria, a molten red light spilling across the marble courtyards of the palace. The wind carried the scent of the sea, thick with salt and the faint trace of smoke from distant fires. The once golden city of Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt, trembled beneath the weight of Rome's shadow. Inside her chambers, silence reigned, an uneasy calm before history's final breath. Cleopatra stood near the open balcony, her figure draped in white linen, gold threads catching the morning light. Her eyes, dark and sharp, gazed toward the harbor where Roman banners now fluttered in the wind. The city that had once bowed to her power now whispered her name in fear. She had ruled with brilliance and pride, but Rome had come to claim what remained. The queen who had once seduced emperors and defied empires now faced her final reckoning. Her attendants moved quietly behind her, their steps soft, their faces pale. Iras and Charmian, her most loyal servants, exchanged glances, understanding the unspoken truth this day would not end as others had. Cleopatra turned, her voice calm but heavy with sorrow. "Has Octavian sent word?" she asked. "None, my queen," Iras answered softly. "His legions guard the palace gates. None are allowed to leave." Cleopatra's lips curved into a faint, knowing smile. "Then he plans to parade me through Rome," she said, "to chain Egypt's queen and call it victory." She walked toward the mirror of polished bronze, her reflection flickering like a ghost. "He believes he has conquered me." But no man conquers Cleopatra. Outside, the sound of soldiers' boots echoed through the city. The people of Alexandria watched from their doorways as Roman banners climbed the palace walls. Octavian, soon to be known as Augustus, had claimed Egypt for Rome. The war was over, but Cleopatra refused to kneel. In a dimly lit hall below, the body of Mark Antony lay still. He had died in her arms the night before, his blood staining the marble floor. Once a mighty Roman general, Antony had been her lover, her ally, and her downfall. His death had broken something deep within her, but it also set her resolve. She would not live to be a trophy in Octavian's triumph. She would meet death as she had lived on her own terms. The morning passed slowly, each moment stretched thin by tension. Cleopatra walked through the palace gardens, the air heavy with jasmine. Statues of gods watched silently as she moved, her hands brushing the petals of the lotus blossoms. She whispered a prayer to Isis, goddess of life and magic, the mother who had always guided her. "Take me home," she murmured. "Let my spirit return to the Nile." A messenger from Octavian arrived soon after, his armor glinting in the afternoon light. He bowed stiffly. "The Roman leader offers you life, Queen Cleopatra. He will treat you kindly if you surrender." She studied him with a calm, unblinking stare. "Kindness," she repeated, almost to herself. "The kindness of chains and mockery." "Tell your master the Queen of Egypt does not surrender." The soldier hesitated. "My orders are to escort you alive." Cleopatra's smile deepened, sad and resolute. "Then you should have come sooner." She dismissed him with a wave, and the man left without another word, uneasy, as if standing too close to something divine and dangerous. As dusk approached, the palace fell quiet. The corridors glowed with the last orange light of day. Iras and Charmian prepared the chamber as their queen instructed. Perfumed oils filled the air. Cleopatra bathed slowly, her movements deliberate, graceful, as if every gesture were a ritual. She adorned herself in her royal robe as a white linen, woven with threads of gold. Around her neck, the broad collar of turquoise and lapis gleamed like the desert sky. Her crown rested lightly on her head, the serpent of Egypt coiled in gold above her brow. When she looked into the mirror, she no longer saw a fallen ruler, but the embodiment of Egypt itself, ancient, proud, eternal. "They will not remember me as a prisoner," she said softly. "They will remember me as a queen." Night descended, deep and still. From the harbor came the sound of waves against stone. In the distance, torches flickered along the Roman encampment. Cleopatra sat upon her throne one final time, the cool gold beneath her fingers. Iras approached quietly, holding a small woven basket covered with figs. Inside, hidden among the fruit, was the aspu, a small Egyptian cobra, sacred symbol of royalty and death. Its scales glistened faintly, like oil under lamplight. Cleopatra looked at the basket for a long moment. There was no fear in her eyes, only peace. She reached inside, gently lifting the asp. The serpent coiled around her wrist, its tongue flickering against her skin. "You are my deliverer," she whispered. Charmian turned away, tears streaming down her face. "My queen," a broken bar. Cleopatra's voice was soft. "Do not weep. Today, Egypt is free." She pressed the serpent to her breast. The bite came swiftly, like a kiss. Her body trembled once, then relaxed. She leaned back against her throne, her breathing slow, fading like the tide against the shore. The chamber filled with silence. The golden crown slipped slightly, catching the lamplight as her head tilted to one side. A faint smile touched her lips, as though she were dreaming. Moments later, Iris took her own life, collapsing beside her queen. Charmian, the last to remain, adjusted Cleopatra's crown before falling too. When Roman soldiers entered, torches blazing, they found the Queen of Egypt seated in regal stillness. Death itself turned into ceremony. Octavian entered soon after, the young Roman conqueror staring at the lifeless figure before him. For a moment, he said nothing. The woman who had defied Rome, who had enchanted Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, had chosen her own ending. He ordered her body to be laid beside Antony's, and for her tomb to be sealed forever. Yet even as he gave the command, he knew why he had won the war, but lost the legend. Outside, the sea whispered against the walls of Alexandria. The stars hung low, bright and ancient, over the city that had witnessed the fall of dynasties. Somewhere, far down the Nile, fishermen claimed they saw a light drifting across the water, a golden boat, gliding silently toward the horizon. They said a woman stood upon it, her robes shining like the sun, her crown radiant. They said the gods had come for their daughter. Centuries would pass, empires would rise and crumble, but Cleopatra's name would not fade. Historians would argue about her beauty, her cunning, her love for power. They would debate how she died, or whether by the serpent's bite, by poison, or by her own hand. But the truth lived not in the manner of her death, but in the defiance of it. She had refused to let Rome write her final line. Even in death, she chose sovereignty. She turned her defeat into myth, her tragedy into immortality. The queen who had walked with emperors became something more, a symbol of power that would outlast the empire that destroyed her. The waves of the Mediterranean continued their eternal rhythm, washing against the shores where Cleopatra once walked. The palace would crumble, the statues fall, but her spirit lingered in the wind that swept through the ruins of Alexandria. Somewhere in that timeless echo, her voice could still be heard. A whisper carried on the sea. "I am Cleopatra," it said. "I will not be forgotten." The years blurred into centuries. Poets would write of her, painters would chase her image, and filmmakers would recreate her legend. But none would truly capture Hera, the woman who was both goddess and mortal, both seductress and scholar, both ruler and dreamer. Her life was the Nile itself, a deep, winding, unpredictable, eternal. The true story of her last days is not one of defeat, but of choice. The choice to end her life on her own terms, to leave behind a legacy so powerful that time itself could not erode it. She was the last pharaoh of Egypt, the last flame of a dying age, and her light, though extinguished in flesh, would burn forever in the story of humankind. When dawn rose over Alexandria the next morning, the city was silent. The people gathered outside the palace, eyes red from grief. The rumor spread like wildfire: the queen was dead. Some wept, others bowed, and others whispered that perhaps she had not died at all, that she had become one with Isis, her mother goddess, and would rise again with the sun. Octavian's soldiers sealed her tomb, but even they felt the weight of what they had witnessed. One centurion would later write, "She died as she lived, a queenly, unbroken, a mystery to men." And so ended the reign of Cleopatra VII, last queen of Egypt, ruler of the Nile, beloved of the gods. Her death marked not only the fall of a dynasty but the end of an era, the final breath of ancient Egypt before it became a jewel in Rome's crown. But in the hearts of her people, and in the scrolls of history, Cleopatra's spirit never truly died. Her legend passed through generations, through dust and ink and story, until she became more than a woman, as she became an idea. The idea that power, beauty, and will could defy even death itself. As night falls again over the ruins of Alexandria, the sea still murmurs her name, as if Egypt itself remembers. Somewhere beyond time, Cleopatra still walks the halls of her palace, bathed in golden light, her laughter echoing through eternity, her eyes fixed on the horizon. The last queen of Egypt still reigns in memory, in myth, and in the unyielding heart of history.